Okay, well, the stream should be starting up here. Let's see if it does. Okay, everyone, let me know if you can hear me. Oh. And let me know how the audio sounds. I'm processing it through the NVIDIA broadcast software, using its noise removal. I had an AMD GPU for a while, so I forgot that existed, and so I'm trying that out again for live streaming, because it's going to be probably the best result I can get as far as keeping unwanted noise and all that kind of stuff out of the audio for the streams. So let me know how the audio is, and I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'll adjust the audio if I need to as any messages come in. So I didn't get all the way to where I wanted to get before I started the stream. I was trying to do a bit of preparation work, and I'll walk through the process that I went through so far, but I wanted to kind of get something established before I started the stream so that we could hopefully get into more of the Unreal Engine side of things beforehand. So I will go ahead and let's see. I'm using the Motorica Mojin. It's a generative AI service that can generate motion capture animations. Okay, audio sounds good, and yes, I am in Blender right now. So did I open the right file? I did. So essentially, one of the things it supports is keyframing, motion in Blender, and then uploading that file as an FBX into it, and then it'll generate the actual motion. So this is a extremely long take. I animated out essentially some motions from a few of the Ubisoft dance cards that Ubisoft used when they were mentioned and expanded upon, and other stuff around that first initial GDC's talk that was done. It looks like I actually forgot to save this, so I don't have everything that I actually exported, but I already have processed the animations. So this is all, what you're about to see is all AI generated. So now if I go into Unreal, I haven't gotten all of the animations in yet, but I do have the first chunk of what you just saw in Blender. And the character is floating above the ground a bit. It's not as clean as it could be, and I'm not going to worry about adjustments during this stream. I will, maybe I will, but I'm going to try it out and just kind of try to brute force a foot placement node. But this is fully AI generated animation. This is the raw output, so I haven't done any cleanup yet, and it's what I'm going to try to work with. This is another one that I have here, just running straight at a constant velocity. Feels a bit too stiff, so I might not try to use it. And I'm just in the process of actually getting the exported FBX animation files, the generated ones, into the engine. And essentially what I need to do is the FBX that it gives me is, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this, import, and I'll grab the second chunk. Okay. So it has a root bone here, Yeah, the feet are really messed up at the start. But it should be, I bet it would be possible to script something to clean these up. Okay, I will show that. I actually have shown the input and the output. I haven't shown the actual process. So here is the site. You may still have to, I signed up to get beta access. I just put in an email. I believe I had to do that. It's been a couple of months, at least a month, I think, since I first came here and now. But going to the site, you should be able to just put your email in and then eventually get access. It shouldn't take too long. And I can just upload in FBX. In this case, this is the last one I uploaded. I'll grab this one. Click the button, and they provide a downloadable Blender file right here in this document, which you can access through this drop-down menu going to the Blender Quick Start Guide. There is an experimental Unreal Engine plugin, but it's for version 5.0 and nothing later, so I've just been going the Blender route. And so I have their skeleton animated in the blend file. I export it as an FBX following this guide that they have, upload it, and then it generates the motion along the path of the root bone, and in this case it's generating a couple of turnarounds. It will generate motion going along with the location of the root bone, but also the rotation. So you can get strafing, you can get facing into motion, you can get these spin around pivots that I created for a standard non-strafing forward facing locomotion. So that's the process. It's actually quite simple. Then you just download. You can choose, they have a bunch of different presets, essentially motion styles. I've just gone with the basic male style, and I haven't really done any experimenting there yet. And so the FBX that gets downloaded, I then will import into Blender. And why is this set to 24 frames per second? That should be 30. Let me try that again. File, import, FBX. I'll grab the basic nav dance card 2. I guess I'll just set that to 30 FBX after import. Scale it to 1 in this timeline, and that way it will map itself to frames properly. It doesn't always do that. I'll set the start and end time. And now I'm going to, and yeah, I realized the reason that I'm getting issues with the root is because you're supposed to retarget to their FBX, the FBX that you get in that retargeting process. You're supposed to adjust for this, but I'm skipping past that because I didn't have time to grab one of the plugins to put into Blender and to go through that, so I'm trying to kind of finagle my way through. We'll see. For most of the time, the feet are close enough to the ground that foot placement should work. We'll see. If I need to do some retargeting and go back, we can do that. We have a good amount of time here for the stream. So with that done, I'll go into the armature, and I just need to rename the root bone to root, or Unreal Engine will not import it properly. Then I have to export it and then import it into Unreal Engine. With that exported, I'll go into the engine, and I've already imported their skeleton and mesh. And now I'll go ahead and import that second animation here. And I'll do all the basic navigation, then we'll get started with motion matching. And as we try to push that further, I'll get these different animations in. I don't want to take too long getting these in. Did I export that to the wrong file? I did. There we go. And I'll likely do a video breaking down the full process that I just kind of skimmed over for the stream. I'm planning on making videos on whatever I find out and discover in this stream and more streams I'll be doing this weekly as I continue to work on this motion matching project. And yep, that's the second basic navigation. And it'll import more animations than what's actually needed. And now that I've shown these, I'll go ahead and go through these and enable root motion. That's a little bit of a tedious process. So now on to basic nav 3. I originally animated it as one dance card, but there is a frame limitation on how many frames that Mojang will process, so I had to cut it up and just upload a couple of sections at a time. Yeah, this is seriously going to have some issues on the stops. The hip is kind of the actual root, and it is not moving down. So that really sucks. We'll try. I may have to circle back around and make some adjustments. So yeah. Yeah, any up and down motion in the hips just isn't here. And it should be, I think, I'm going to look through the document because I didn't pay a lot of attention to this section. I definitely should have, but that is hindsight. The more I see, the more I have a feeling that that root is going to be a big issue and just be a hindrance. So I will go ahead and retarget some of these in Blender. Oh yeah, and thanks for getting those questions answered, Ryan. I looked away from chat, and we've done this 2 streams in a row. If you want to join in and talk in Discord, you're certainly welcome to. I wasn't sure about your schedule, and I did not think to offer beforehand. Your choice, but just the offer is open if you'd like to, because I know you're just as interested in this stuff, if not more so than I am, and that you've done some of your own preliminary work with it as well. Okay, so I'll go ahead and grab a tab off to the side, and let's see, what are they using? The Rococo plugin, that's what I thought. So I'm just searching that up. Okay, got it. I'm working on a second screen. That's why what you're saying is just static. I definitely should have taken a step back through that beforehand. I wouldn't have been as far along now, but it's fine. It's probably, the retargeting is probably going to be one of the best parts to show on stream now anyway, as opposed to before we get to a video. Okay, so I am grabbing the Rococo Studio Blender plugin so that I can retarget these animations properly and get the hip movement, because what's going on here is that the hip is completely static with the way things are at right now in the FBX animation files it generates. The motion is still there, but it's kind of held in place by this root, and this is the plugin they recommend using to retarget it and get that hip motion back. And so I'm going to do that now, because I said we'd try without doing that earlier, but the more I see here, the more I realize it is going to be a big issue, and I'd rather not, and it's going to throw a wrench in everything going forward. So I'm going to take the extra time and go through that process. And definitely thanks for giving the stream a shout out, because I haven't really done that except for doing it in my own Discord server. So yep, you guys can definitely appreciate you guys sharing it with anyone you think would be interested in joining in while we do this in real time. Okay, so where were we? Okay, that's right. I need to get these plugins enabled. It's currently frozen while it's enabling the plugin, so I'm just going to wait. And I'm going to go ahead and adjust my microphone. It should be a little bit closer. There we go. Okay. It seems to be enabled. I'm actually going to open up their provided blend file. And I'm going to grab their PDF and put it to the side so that I can reference it. And now I'll go ahead and import the basic navigation FBX file. And it needs to be imported with automatic bone orientation. And now things actually did get lined up properly with the keyframes as well, now that I'm bringing it back into this file, so that's good. Actually, never mind. I imported what I exported previously to the software. That's what's happening here. I didn't realize there wasn't any animation for a moment. So let's try that again. I went to export, and again, I put it in this file, not the other one. There we go. That's okay. Yes, and Ryan did do the animation set for the locomotion project. It's the unarmed upright strafing animation set. But yep. Okay. So gosh, it's way too small on this second screen. Gotta zoom in a bit. Okay. Okay, there we go. Just had to disconnect the bone. That makes sense. That explains it. That is so much better. And that is going to... That is much better. Okay, we're back in business. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and... I actually don't need to do the retargeting. It was just disconnecting the bones, which makes more sense. I was wondering, yeah, it makes more sense than, because I have the mesh in Unreal Engine, I can just import this to the mesh because the skeletal hierarchy matches up. So, all right. Okay. I don't need this in here right now. And I'm just going to rename this to, what was I calling these? Forgot my own naming convention. Well, it's really Ubisoft's naming convention for this wildcard that I followed their outline for basic, nav, and then I've cut them into sections. This is section 1. So now I'll go ahead and just import all of these basic nav animations. And do these all right here instead of going back and forth between the two applications. Blender can be iffy. I should, with the order that you select things in, I should just be able to click on that, Alt-P, disconnect bone. Yep, I can. Awesome. So that is basic nav 2, and we'll continue the process. There's 3. more. This is going fast enough. I might do a few more than the basic navigation, because we need to get back to them anyway in this stream. Once I do that, I will show you guys the process of actually animating the root bone briefly. I'll try to take 5 minutes or so for those of you who are joining into the stream, and that way there is a real-time presentation of doing something really simple and using the Mojin service in this stream for you all. Because I did, just for those of you who've joined since we began the stream, I briefly covered the process I used, and all of these animations are AI generated based on essentially animating a root bone, exporting that FBX, importing it into the service, and it'll generate motion to go along with that root bone's animation. I did not realize that the basic nav 5, I meant to turn the other way around, but I ended up making the same kind of turn. That's all right. I won't worry about importing it, and we can mirror these in Unreal Engine, so we'll just rely on the mirroring. So I have a spin 180 degree. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to get enough coverage for a simple forward-facing system. So non-strafing, which should be easier to do with motion matching as well than strafing. It should be simpler to set up. So that's what I'm starting with my experimentation here. And so this is one where the character does 2 spins, 1 in each direction. And I also, throughout these, tried to make sure the character is moving close to 400 centimeters a second, so that it would match up with setting the character's movement in Unreal Engine to 400, because we're just doing one pace here, and I haven't done coverage for multiple speeds. So I have a 90-degree spin as well, one that's just counterclockwise and one that's clockwise in one animation. We may have to cut these up more than they currently are, but I want to get these into Unreal Engine first and just look at what kind of result brute forcing everything into motion matching, if it gets all the coverage, to see how well that works, and then start to separate things out, cut things up, and switch between different sets of coverage as we need to address any areas that would need to be addressed or might not be selecting the proper animations. So disconnect it and rename it, in this case, spin 90. And one that I know we will need is going to be these spiraling animations I created. I animated the character along a single spiral, and then I had to cut that up into multiple segments. But it has the character moving in a spiral, a pretty large one, all the way around into the center, and we're going to rely on mirroring. And this should, this mirrored with the mirror data table in Unreal Engine, should give us enough coverage for turning while jogging. Okay. Much better. So this here is the third and final spiral. And it wasn't able to keep itself as constrained, or I don't know, that seems a bit wider than I thought the end result was. I'll go ahead and look at all of these together. So there's spiral one, I can't talk right now, spiral 1, 2, and 3 all going together. I will go ahead and grab some tighter circling ones I did too. So I'll do circle 1 and 2. And you guys will see. Yep, I'm definitely glad I went through and did it this way, because the rotation of the hips was not in there either to begin with, without disconnecting these in Blender before moving them into Unreal. So we have some circling, or I have some circling animations here that I've generated. I think 1 and 2. I did like 300 degrees a second was the maximum it did. Based on some of the presets it had, I didn't animate the roots for circling. So again, I'll set the maximum turn speed in Unreal Engine to just 300 degrees a second, and that should help things to line up pretty well. So circle 2, I mean, is a bit wider, and it just continues to get wider by about 45 degrees a second. For each of these circling ones, though I think I should have enough coverage and variety in the spiraling that we won't need all of the circle. We'll see. I just wanted to have some extra coverage there. So this is circle 2. And I'll do one more circle, and then we'll rename the root bones and get these back into Unreal. That's a good point about turning. It might be better to not mirror it in that case, but so eventually in a completed system, you'd probably want to have like starts, stops, pivots, those kinds of animation states, the same way you would in a locomotion system, separated out, have your coverage separated out, and then use the trajectory component and look at the points in it to determine which one of those you want to pull from. And in that case, like, you could have the starts unmirrored, but then anything that's just used when the character is in motion and turning, that is going to be that could be mirrored, because you're already in the middle of it, and the which foot comes first wouldn't matter. And I do not believe you can use it commercially. I will double check that. Let's see. I have the site here. So if I go into their Motion page, okay, that's going to take me right to this. It's not a whole lot on this page. I know I came across the information somewhere. I want to say that it was for non-commercial use, but I could be mistaken. I'll have to get back to you guys on that I'll get back to you guys on that with a pinned comment. I don't want to take on the live stream. I don't want to take too much time. And then of course I will mention that right up front when I eventually do a video on this. So I think I was bringing in circle 3. Okay. And I'm going to take just a moment to adjust the name of the stream. Stating that it's AI generated animations. Might get some more views. And it's true. There we go. Oh, okay. That's good to know. Okay, that's everything I'm going to process in Blender right now. Ah, okay. That would be the place to look. So thanks for the assistance there, Furry Bee Productions. Okay. Now that we have these, we now need to go in and change the name of the root bone to root for each and every one of these. And I'll go ahead and do that. I don't think I'm not going to go all the way and retarget this to the Unreal Engine 5 mannequin this time around. I'm just going to use their provided character and not bother with setting up the an IK retargeter. Because I want the focus of the stream right now to be motion matching. I might do that in between streams because I'm planning on doing this every Wednesday. Live streams, that is. And this will be the focus going forward. So with that all done, I'll go ahead and start to export these. And I'll go ahead and do this in a dedicated folder. So selected objects, armature, and we went to uncheck add leaf bones. And this should be basic nav _1 _root. I'll copy that _root to make this easier going forward with the rest of these and export. And I'm going to run a test and bring it into Unreal Engine before I do the rest of them here. Maybe I forgot to check only selected. No, don't think so. Yep, that's much better. Much better. It just generate a bunch of poses. No, it didn't. It might have actually pulled everything in. which is fine. It just doesn't have the names, but it is faster. And the root bone is set. Yep, that is what it did. Cool. Okay, I'll just deal with naming these because that is going to be faster. So I'm going to select all of these. Or no, I will need to do one at a time. So that is basic nav 1. I believe that's basic nav 3. The basic nav doesn't really matter. It's all meant to be used together, following Ubisoft's approach. So as long as these are basic navs, I'll just give them that designation and not worry about the order, because I ended up cutting them up anyway. It's zoomed in a bit too much there. So which one is this? Okay, that's 180-degree pivots. And that is the 90-degree pivots. I think this is going to be a spiral 3, or actually spiral 1. I was thinking of it in reverse. Yep, 2. And 3. I think that's the widest circle. Yep, circle 3. Circle, that's I think circle 2, or maybe that first one was circle 2. I'll name this one circle 2. I can make that adjustment later. This looks like circle 1. Or no, that's part of a spiral. Huh. Or is it? I'm not really sure at this point. And it brought in a couple of poses as well. Well, circling and spiraling are all meant to be used together. I can go back and adjust the names. So I'm going to bulk edit these and enable root motion. So the issue was in Blender to fix the floating feet. The hip is a child of the root bone, as it should be, but when importing the FBX, there was no way, I think, for the FBX files to specify that they shouldn't be connected. So the hip was locked to the end of the root bone. I just had to right-click on the hip in edit mode and disconnect the bones and keep the hierarchy, but disconnect the bones, and that restored the motion of the hips, and I didn't need to retarget. My whole process I thought through of just putting the skeletal mesh in Unreal Engine and bringing these in, that all worked out. The retargeting was just gonna be like a process, I think, that they had meant for like staying all the way in Blender. Of course, they weren't going to cover what the process would be like for Blender to Unreal, and that does change things if you're not staying in Blender. Sure thing. Okay, so asset actions, bulk edit. Where's that at? Can't see it. Weird. Doesn't seem to be showing up there. All right, well, I'll just go through these. Enable root motion and force root to lock. Okay. So I've already enabled the plugins that motion matching needs, the trajectory plugin and the pose search plugin. Enabled some of the other ones too, like the animation locomotion library and the animation warping plugins. So just the stuff for distance matching, and then which is the animation warping, I think. No, animation locomotion library, and then pose the warping. Sorry, I can't think clearly and click and tick boxes apparently. The plugin that enables orientation warping, stride warping, that kind of stuff, and the plugin that enables distance matching. Don't think we'll use distance matching at any point, but I just like to have them enabled by default. Okay, so we have our starting animations. So I'll go ahead and go to characters, Mojin, animations. And I'll just move these into a subfolder here named locomotion. And now I'm going to try to remember where the motion matching stuff is. Okay. So first I'll create a motion database config. And the first thing I'm going to try here is brute force this, and I will go back and show the process of Blender to Mojin 2. I have not forgotten about that. For a mirror data table, I'm going to create, and I'm essentially just setting up the configuration for how it goes through the animations and how motion matching is handled for the database that we will create. What bones it tracks, that kind of stuff, the time frames that it tracks along. And it might have been able to have automatically populated that. Yes, it did. Awesome. That should be fine. We'll find out if we have issues. And for the time being, I'm going to leave these on their defaults. So the default trajectory sampling and the default pose sampling, which is both feet, and just the feet. Okay, so with that done, I'll go ahead and to start, just create a single library. I mean database. So mdb underscore locomotion, and we'll separate things out into separate databases as we need to, if we need to. I think we probably will. Okay, so now I'm just going to start to bring these in. I'll just put them all in. So what this does not, Mojin really didn't kind of keep the idles with the stops. I had a keyframe stopping, but they kind of just ended in an odd spot, and I'm not going to bother with manually trying to animate transitions. I'm just going to have an idle state and a movement state, I think. One used when a velocity is 0 and one used when it isn't. And I'll just use the third person character. Oh, I can't use the third person idle. Okay. So if I just set speed to 0 and generate something, let's see if that can give us an idle. Yep, okay. That gives us an idle for the skeleton. And while we're here, I'm just going to go ahead and go from speed 4 to a target speed of 0 and see if it gives me a stop. Because that would be great to have. A stop that ends in an idle. It does. Awesome. I'm going to grab this too. So it has some basic preset paths, but you can get a lot more advanced, like I showed by animating the roof bone. Okay, so Blender, import FBX, and I'll grab the idle. Alt-P, disconnect bone. I'll name it idle. Oh, I didn't set the lengths of these properly. I forgot to do that. So it may have actually cut some of these off. Or it may have only kept the animated frames. I think it just kept the animated frames, and I think I kept this long enough. I lost out on the last frame of one of these. But if it doesn't just freeze the character, and I know it didn't, then it was fine, and it kept the animated frames, so never mind. I thought we had an issue. We do not. And it exported all of these, even though I had selected objects, so I'm going to delete these out. There's idle. And I brought in stop as well. Just a moment, everyone. I'm pausing for just a moment. Just checking something over on the YouTube end, making sure things are doing fine with the stream. Okay. Let me know if you guys are, or if you do encounter any kinds of buffering or interruptions. YouTube is telling me it's low, the bitrate is low, but OBS is saying that I'm in the green with a little over 2600 kilobytes per second. So I'm going to trust that OBS has things right. Motion matching has been much better in my experience in 5.3 than 5.2. I am in 5.3.1 right now. That did come out. I'm hoping it doesn't break anything. Because I kind of updated without thinking earlier, and I haven't put a base 5.3 on just in case. But despite nothing being mentioned about it in any sort of release notes, it did get a lot better. And just its overall quality, the quality of its functioning. I haven't looked at anything more recently from main than the 5.3 release. Or at least I haven't done anything more recently with anything on my computer or looked into the GitHub repository history. Okay, so there's our stop. And I forgot to rename the root on the idle. I'll have to redo that, unfortunately. There we go. Just to be safe, I'm going to do this in a different folder in case it decides to bring multiples in. That'll make it easier to sort through. Yes, it is bringing multiples in. Weird. Wow, that's probably going to bring in a lot of single frame animations, I guess. Yep, even though I deleted them out, it still somehow brought in the other ones that were in there previously. That's weird. Because there are some full stops in the dataset, but I like having something more dedicated that isn't at an angle either, because a lot of these are between, you know, stopping in one direction, taking off in another. That's just single frame. I think that's a single frame too. There's our stop. Okay. So I might have to go through that again with this idle. We'll see. Oh, wrong skeleton. There we go. Yep. Gosh, this is nuts. Oh well. I have a feeling it's going to be this one. Yep. Okay, so in the motion database, I'm going to bring in stop and idle. Okay. That complete. I'll go ahead and create an animation blueprint for this skeleton. ABP motion matching. And actually I need to get the trajectory component set up first, which is enabled by enabling the trajectory plugin. So I just add it to the character. That should be fine. That should be everything that's needed. And this third person character, I'm going to set the mesh, and I'll set the animation blueprint. If I play, there should be a way to not that one. Trying to debug the trajectory. Might have to. There might be a toggle for it in the component. Don't see it. Yes, it is free. You just have to put in your email to, and you will then eventually get access. So now we need to get our trajectory in our animation blueprint. So since we haven't added the component to the character, I'll go ahead and override blueprint thread safe update animation, and I'll create a function. I'll name it get trajectory. And I'm going to get a property access node. I'm going to get the owning actor, I'm going to cast to third person character. And I'm going to get character trajectory to get the character trajectory component. And now I'll get a return node. And I'll make sure the name is return value, and I'm going to set this to pure, and it should work in property access now. So in Blueprint thread safe update animation, I'll access that function through property access, and I will get our trajectory. Now the functions are in previous versions to process the trajectory aren't here anymore. I don't know why. But you know what? Instead of trying to process it right now, what I would do is it's in world space. I'd want to take it to local space. I'll see if maybe the reason the functions aren't here is that it's smart enough that it doesn't need to be in local space for the animation blueprint now. It's worth a shot, save some time. So I'll do the quickest and dirtiest setup possible. Grab a motion matching node, select our database, and plug in our trajectory. Not all of these have root motion. That's one of the issues I'm seeing. I forgot to enable it. Let's try that again. It's definitely having some issues. Oh, mesh is rotated the wrong way. That's gonna have an effect. Yeah, still doesn't exactly know what to do when we're idling, and I don't have starts for starting in different directions. And now it's just even more confused. That's interesting. Wonder what happened if I do that. Yes, very weird. The rotation might be off on this, and that might be the rotation is off on this, and that's probably why. I have to import some stuff and rework some stuff. Let me think. I'm going to see what kind of effect turning off orient rotation to movement has. And I think I made the mistake of not exporting that way. Yeah, I know it's off. This is turned off. I'm just trying to get a better idea to see what was happening. That is definitely going to cause issue. Or some issue. So it does seem to be working close enough. if we need to go back, we will. And I'll see if the animations still work if I re-import this. I'll try that now and see. Hopefully they do. And hopefully I don't need to re-export them again, because I did forget to set that properly. Okay. Oh. Whoops. I know what I forgot. Didn't name this properly. Okay, let's re-import this again. There we go. That should have preserved the root properly now. And now it looks like I'm going to have to re-import these now that I swapped the skeleton. I wonder if I can re-import this like that. Yep. That did the trick. So I want to make sure that it chooses the right ones. In 5.3, it just seems to be overall better. I don't think the process for it has changed that much, but the quality has just increased, and the stability. It doesn't corrupt my project files anymore, which it always inevitably did in 5.2, which is why I held off on doing anything with it, because it would crash the engine and corrupt project files so often. Okay. Yep, seemed to work. The root is not oriented properly, though. Doesn't look like it's having an effect. so I'll come back to that later. Yeah. Darn. I'd have to make adjustments and re-export the actual animations from Blender, but it seems like it's smart enough. And so the issues we're seeing now are just with how well it's able to map the motion to the movements of the character. So first I'm going to make sure I'm getting the trajectory in local space and see if that has an effect. So I'm going to break this, get the array it's made of, and get a for each loop. For each of these structs, I'm going to break it, and I'm going to subtract the location of the owning actor. And I'll make this pose search trajectory sample, connect this all back up. Yep, I've seen some really good results on Twitter, or X as it's called now, too. I've had better results using Ryan's animation set because his blend space, everything works together in blend spaces and it can sample blend spaces. It's probably going to be a bit more tricky. I might try doing some root motion driven motion matching here in a few minutes to see what that looks like. We're just getting started in this stream, and I expect the quality to increase as we continue on and as I make adjustments. It's definitely not going to be perfect to the first try, and there's going to be a lot to figure out when it comes to getting things to work well with just to all really fit together properly. And there's always a lot of adjustment that's required for these sorts of things to turn out good. Though still, I think maybe a bit less if you have the coverage for motion matching than a traditional locomotion setup. And I haven't separated anything out either. It's just all running in one motion matching node. So there's a lot of steps we can take to improve the quality and to guide the system. Okay. So, where was I? Okay, so I have the trajectory. I need to clear this first. We're just gonna continue to add stuff to it. Yeah, the awesome results that a few people were getting on Twitter is what inspired me to look back into it. And I'm happy I did because I got some pretty good initial results too. And that's why we are here now. Okay. So final step should be getting this. Make a pose search, query trajectory, promote to variable. And this will be a local space trajectory. Okay, so it does seem to work just fine with both. Okay, so now I'm gonna turn off blending, turn up the maximum active blends, and put in some initial values here that aren't 0 to see if that can help with motion consistency. And not having the blends gives us a much better idea of what's going on here. I'm gonna turn off the pose jump threshold. And I'm gonna turn up the pose throttle time. And I'm gonna set the minimum play rate to 0.85 and the maximum to 1.15. That's helping some with consistency. It could definitely benefit from more coverage on the turns. Are these not set to mirror? Okay. That's going to be a big part of the issue. I'm going to go ahead and mirror everything for the time being, just so it has as much data as it can get. Yep, I agree. It's not sticking with one animation long enough. And it only wants to turn in one direction, even with the mirroring. That's going to be because of the animations are off to begin with. I am going to need to re-export these, unfortunately. So, okay, I'm going to try to do this faster this time. Really sucks, but let's see. Stop. Yeah, there's more to do in the animation blueprint, but it is definitely having issues with resulting from the... Oh, I did not import these properly. There's definitely issues that are resulting from the animation alignment, the forward vector and up vector not being set properly. And that's on me, so I'm gonna go through and fix that, and that should hopefully help. stop. I'm going to name these first. Idle. The AI is generating the animations that we're using in motion matching. So I'm using this site here, and I can upload an FBX file that's just the root motion, an animated root. Oh, no worries. I'm happy to go through it quickly here because people, jump in, jump out of the stream, and so in this case, I animated the root movement to the trajectory you see is that red line there, and then it generates the animation on top of it. And so it's fantastic for creating coverage, which is one of the main things that motion matching needs. So there's pretty much a direct correlation between the amount and quality of coverage and the quality of motion matching. So it's more quality over quantity for coverage, but you can experiment and get the right kind of coverage without having to pay an enormous amount of money for a motion capture suit, which is awesome. And forgot the naming convention again. Basic nav is what we were calling it. The ordering, I'm not too concerned about. So sorry for the delay, everyone, that I need to go back and fix these. Yeah, I mean, the closer the angle can be to the actual movement of created by the capsule, the better. The best way we might be able to achieve that would be to get ourselves some more animations to pick from. Maybe I'll go back and generate some more variations for the circling. That's probably going to be our best bet. I could do a different spiral as well, but we'll see. So this looks like it's a loop as well. Yeah, loop got in twice. So these look like they're the spirals. Yep. And that is one of the circles. So there are 3 circling ones. I wanted to try more of a traditional approach as opposed to using the Paragon animations. I can definitely look at that in the future, but I've been wanting to look into Motorica's Mogen for a while now. And so this was an excuse for me to both revisit motion matching and to look at the Mogen stuff and to see what the generative motion capture is capable of. And I was hoping to get something that would result in having a bit more variety this way too. Odd. I'm going to delete the circling and spiraling out and import them one by one to make sure I get these right. Let me see if I can find one. Not sure if we're talking about the same Twitter post, but we know that we both found Twitter posts. I believe I either liked it or bookmarked it. I know I did one of the two. That's the one that I came across. Yep, some of these definitely got duplicated as I brought them in. Okay. I still have to do the circling ones, but I'm just going to start with the basic navigation. And I want to see what it looks like with the simplest approach. I don't think I've referred to the Unreal Engine. I didn't know there was documentation on motion matching. I know that there's a PDF shared by like Unreal Engine motion matching in 5.1 plus, written by one of the developers working on the functionality. That is out there on the web, so. Okay. Going to go through these and rename the root bones, and then I will disconnect the root bones from the hips. Yeah, it's definitely different now than it was before. So the process is a bit different. Okay, I see the issue here. Even though I disconnected, it's not there, and that's because I just bulk selected a bunch of these, darn it. And I didn't name the basic nav accordingly, so I'm gonna have to bring these back in. This does suck. I should have been more careful, because there are a few versions as I was trying this out. I guess I left some old versions in the file, and those are some of them that I ended up keeping, and I'll have to re-import and go through that naming process again. The stop animation is fine. Let's check the spin. Spin is fine. 90-degree pivot should be good too. Loop is messed up, so I'll have to grab the other file for that. There's idle. Okay. Darn, this sucks. Those files should be deleted. Okay, let's get basic nav 1. There we go. Basic nav 2 is next. Come on, there we go. It's clicked. Okay. Almost there. Kind of. One more basic nav, and I'll come back and look at the spins and circling. I'm not gonna work on that right now. I want to try getting it without. See if I can just force it to use the turning that's part of the basic nav setup as consistently as we can. I'm going to try to build up the coverage essentially. Start with minimal coverage, get that working as well as it can with that coverage, and then start introducing things one bit at a time. I think that's the approach I'm going to take rather than trying to dissect through everything and all of the coverage and try to get things all synced up and working well. I think we'll probably see, following this dance card kind of approach, best results with our root motion driven motion capture. Sorry, I'm just now seeing your message. What are you asking about? Being necessary, and my thoughts. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to or how long it's been since the message. Motion matching. So it's definitely not necessary, especially right now. It's still experimental, not even in a beta state in the engine. Gameplay should always come first. As time continues, it might become, with these sort of generative AI tools, it might become more, what's the, I can't think and talk right now. What's the, I don't know why. It's the dangers of doing things live, I guess. Give me just a moment to try to straighten out my thoughts. It may become easier to build to achieve a certain level of fidelity with motion matching, as far as the time investment goes, than it is with a standard state machine approach for a small team. Largely due to the generative emotion AI stuff that just continues to advance. And depending on how good the tools get in Unreal Engine, you could reach a point where it's easier to have the computer figure out your animation logic for you than to have than to go through build the state machines and figure it out yourself. But it depends on the kind of fidelity you're trying to target, really. But I'd still say the state machine approach is probably the best to default to. You don't have to get as complex as I usually do. If you've seen my more recent series, I'm going into quite some detail there. Lots of games don't go into that much detail, so it's always just with gameplay coming first, and really the answer to that question is going to depend on yourself, what you think, and your project. I don't have any tips right now. I haven't tried setting up motion matching using root motion, but coverage, if it's feeling unresponsive, it's probably a matter of needing more coverage. That would be my guess. We might find out in the course of this stream some things to do once I get to trying root motion. I believe I've named all of these. Yep. Okay. I might just pack all of these into one animation despite what I have selected here, what I'm trying to tell it to do. X forward, Z up. Let's just see if that works. Strange. Let's try that again. Export FBX, armature, selected object. I'll just go visible object and ensure it does it that way. Fake animation wasn't selected. There we go. Now it's exporting. Okay, yeah, it really comes down to what you feel, and if you think that the motion matching is the best fit, then I'd say go for it. You know, it might still take a few engine updates until things get ready, but the Motion Symphony plugin isn't cheap. The 2.0 version was just released. It's a fantastic motion matching function, and it would give you everything you'd ever want or need for motion matching. Has much more features and functionality than the current state of things in 5.0, or I mean 5.3. But it is costly at the same time, and what's in 5.3 right now for free is free. Oh, it's still exporting. Tried to click away, but since I'm just bulk exporting these all together, it does make sense. Yep, my bad. Let me know if there are any audio issues with the stream as opposed to I have not figured that out yet. I tried it earlier in the stream. I'll probably have to try it again. You can take the trajectory, break the structs, get into the array, and for each of the elements in the array, you could draw a debug sphere and see where the points are at. That would be the hacky way to do it if we can't find it. I did that once. But to respond to the previous question, yeah, if you think that motion matching is going to fit right and you want that fluidity of movement, go for it. There is another plugin that is definitely complete. The 2.0 version just released. It's called Motion Symphony. It's on the marketplace. It isn't cheap, but it has a ton of functionality for motion matching. And more than what's in 5.3, and it's not in any sort of experimental stage. So it's worth the price if you can justify it to yourself, and if you have the means to get it and you want the value that it provides, it's definitely worth the price in my opinion. But the stuff that's in 5.3 right now is free along with the engine, though it is experimental. So if you're looking for something feature complete, production ready, that is something that is production ready, that's out there and exists for the engine. Okay. I'll try to be mindful of the speed at which I speak. Wow, this is really taking a while. How long have we been streaming for? Almost 2 hours. Okay, not too bad. I might go somewhere between the 2 and 3 hour mark today for the total length. I want to get to something that looks a bit better. So we might pull these in, look at it with the in-place movement for a bit longer, and then just perhaps switch to root motion. Though I have not set up root motion for a long time, and I have no idea how to even start setting it up for motion matching, so we'll have to go on a bit of delve into documentation maybe if I take that route. Okay, let's try this again. 10,000th time is a charm. Just waiting for it to import now. I exported everything together, so it's going to okay, here we go. No, okay. Well, thanks for watching the stream. I appreciated and enjoyed the conversation back and forth. Okay. Oh, did it? Okay, that's an issue. What the heck? That is not correct. That is Z forward, negative Y up. Oh. Manual orientation got unselected. X forward, Z up. Oh, I chose import. Okay, selected objects. Yep, it's set to X forward and Z up. Yeah, it's tricky. Can be tricky going between a Blender and Unreal. I'm gonna export this to a new file and hope that it doesn't package everything together, because that would make it take really long to work out. There's a better FBX exporter plugin for Blender, and I might just grab it. I've been aware of it, and it's superior quality to the default built-in exporter for getting around all the weird issues of going between Blender and Unreal. So I may go ahead and grab that during this stream. It's about $30 or so, I think. So, which is why I haven't just grabbed it yet. Okay, let's see. I'll try turning on force front x-axis in the import settings. And everything is still seemingly packaged up together. It isn't taking as long this time, though. Okay, I'll look into that plugin too. Thanks. Oh, it's even worse. Wonderful. Perfect. Okay. Well, I'm going to save this file. And delete everything else out of here since it's saved. And try this again. I'm gonna try resetting these to the default values. Exporting, and then importing with that Boolean setting checked to true in Unreal Engine that has it reorient things. I didn't think to do that in the first place. It's taking long enough that I'm thinking that even if I deleted everything out of here, it's still holding on to that. It's a weird bug. Okay. Let's try this again. Sorry everyone that this stream has been taking animations between Blender and Unreal Engine the whole time. If only I got in a little bit further in my prior testing, I might have been able to avoid this, but what's done is done. You guys can just be with me for my suffering, as opposed to seeing the polished process with the eventual videos I make. It definitely always takes much longer to figure out a good process for doing something with game development than it does to actually go through that process once you know it. And things are still extremely disordered. Yep, you're learning what not to do along with me. And that's a lot of the game development process, is discovering every possible way you shouldn't be doing something before you do it correctly. I'm just gonna force delete this, import it. I'm going to use this mesh as my testing for proper Blender export settings. So if I force Y forward, Z up, and export, and then bring it in, yep, applying the transforms is a good idea. We'll try it again with the transforms reapplied. Cool, cool. Yep, moving is always can be fun, but also just tiring. There we go. Y forward, Z up. Only took I don't know how many tries. So now with that determined, that is just going to be Y forward, Z up, what I thought I tried before, but apparently not. I think we've gone in a big circle with what the settings have been set to, but it's working now and wasn't before. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. And I didn't have something set properly beforehand, but hopefully it just works this time around. Oh, that does remind me. So I think I know the answer to your question. And I did forget to do something here with this. So I'm actually doing Y forward and Z up, and that's what I'm going to do for the animations. So this skeleton doesn't have a root bone. So it's taking the name of the armature, and Unreal's creating a root bone, and that's why it's huge. If I name this armature's root, go into edit mode and duplicate a bone. Bring it down. It does not interfere with the with Ryan's plugin, if that's the plugin you're referring to. Yep. It actually works quite well in the second. It works great with Ryan's animations because the way they all blend together in blend spaces, and the motion matching can sample blend spaces, so that works out well. We actually ended up doing motion matching for a pivot state in the last joint stream him and I did together on this channel. So if you check into that, you'll see an example of putting a motion matching node inside of a state machine and using it to motion match his pivot animations. We didn't get things tagged and separated out, so it didn't always choose the correct pivot animation, but it would choose one close to the movement and looked and worked much better than even the distance matched pivots. So you can use motion matching in combination with traditional techniques and in combination with techniques making use of Ryan's animation matching suite plugin. It's a good question. Thanks for asking it. Okay, so I'll name this to root. And if I select these and parent them, we now have a root bone in our armature, which Unreal should recognize. And if I go to viewport display, I'm trying to find where I display the axis of the bones. I haven't done a ton of contract work recently, or really at any point in the past. I've done some one-on-one tutoring, but if you want to send me a message with more details on Discord, I'd be happy to talk with you more. I'm not closed off to the idea. So it hasn't been something that I've been doing regularly or much at all in at least the last year. So I'm open to doing it potentially. If you're in my Discord server, you should be able to message me. I should be open to PMs from anyone else in the server or just in general. And if you're not in the server yet, I can grab you the link to join it. There you go. There's the link, just in case. Okay, sounds good. I'll try to respond to you in a reasonable amount of time. It might take me till tomorrow after the stream because I have some other stuff I need to get to, and I may take some time out to take some time to consider and formulate a response. But I'll get to you no later than what is tomorrow for me in my time zone. There's a good chance I will still be able to get to you at some point this evening as well. Okay, I think that makes so I'll try that for the root. Yep, there's a it's still showing up as being quite large, and the orientation is incorrect. So I'm going to go back and not worry about that step. And I'm going to name this to root. And that should do the trick of giving Unreal Engine a root bone. I'm definitely going to be looking into that better FBX exporter and importer plugin for Blender in the future, because this is just ridiculous how the issues are, or the Blender 2 Unreal Engine plugin that was mentioned. I should have looked at that sooner. I haven't done a lot of work in between Blender and Unreal Engine recently. This is the first time I've done it with animations and character meshes in a long time. I've only recently just been doing like moving 3D models back and forth, non-scanned character meshes. So it's been a while since I've experienced the issues inherent to the process of taking animations between the two programs. So we're trying this again. Hopefully it does work this time. Yeah, I'm sure Maya's a much better, robust tool set for working with Unreal Engine. Back when I first started getting into game development, I was still, around the time I first downloaded Blender, with the intention of getting Unreal, didn't work out. I was on a pretty bad laptop. I was either 15 or 16, so that was anywhere from 4 to 5 years ago, and I did not have the funding to afford Maya, and I still don't right now unless I really save up for it, but there's some other things I want to get first because I'm just used to Blender. It's definitely gotten better, since the days of pre 2.8. Much better than it used to be. But I've heard that Maya is fantastic for working with the animations. Much better than Blender. And it's industry standard for that kind of stuff, so I could definitely save myself some trouble if I did invest in it for myself. Yeah. I made some big mistakes deciding on the pieces for my first gaming computer. I mean, not really big, but I mean, I got a 1050 Ti as my GPU, and there were better GPUs in the same price range at the time. Like I could have gotten like a 970 at least, maybe something even a bit better from that, for the same price, and it would have been much better performance than the 1050 Ti, but those are the days of the past. I was able to get myself a 3090 towards the beginning of this year, so that's been helpful with Unreal Engine 5 and ray tracing and experiments with generative AI as well, and seeing what that technology can do. Which is one of the main reasons I went for a 3090 as opposed to something more within what would be my actual proper price range of affordability. It honestly depends. You can give it a shot, certainly. The pivots, motion matching will get it as close as possible to the animation you're entering it from. And Ryan's plugin, if you're just using one of his matching sequence players or blend splice players, will get it as close as possible. So you can get it as close as it's going to get based on its pose, going between his plugin and going between his animations and other animations. But the blend between two states should be, I think, would be enough to get it close enough to where it should look all right. I guess most pivots should look good enough being matched in, because you can match the poses. You may want to experiment with using a foot placement node as well, as that can help to get keep the feet locked and keep them from sliding around while blending between states or animations as well. Yeah, the GPU market was definitely crazy for quite a while. I've had 3 GPUs, a 1050 Ti, an AMD 6700 XT, and then what I have right now, the 3090. I got the 6700 XT for 6700. I mean, for at least I think 800 and something, so at least a couple $100 over what it should have been. I was lucky. It was during the shortage. There was like a moment about between like the halfway and 3/4 mark where prices started going down again. I grabbed it, and then prices shot back up on everything right after that. But I had to buy it secondhand from eBay. Did the same thing on the 3090, and I've survived so far. One of the fans doesn't always turn on it, but the temperatures have been fine for the most part. I do need to look into getting that fixed though. The foot placements is a newer experimental node. It's part of the same plugin. I think it's the pose warping plugin. It comes with the orientation warping node, stride warping, whatever whatever plugin those come with. I think it's the pose warping one built into the engine. I might not be correct on the name. I might be confusing names. But it is a node that you place into the graph just like the other ones, as opposed to a control rig. a bit newer than what was in the initial release of Lyra. They have included it in the Lyra system since then, though. Yeah, definitely, because there was, all the used cards being sold from the mining as well. Okay, is this... I don't even see a character here. Oh, that's... Wow. Okay, then. This really is ridiculous. Worked the first time around, but the orientation was incorrect. I don't know. I haven't done anything really with LiveLink, so I can't answer that question. Try giving it a different name. Maybe there's... I don't think that would work, but I'm at my wit's end as far as what to try at this point. Oh, that's right. I didn't look at applying the transforms. That might have been all I needed to do. I think that's exported by now. Should be. We'll see. Ah, that force front x-axis setting was turned on when it shouldn't have been. So hopefully those two tweaks will get this imported and working. Ah, nope. Gosh, I really don't understand what's happening with the skinning on this. This is just like ridiculous levels of absurdity with what's happening right now. It's only gotten worse since we started or something. Ah, the aliasing is making this really hard to see. But it looks like it actually has the emotion. Now the arms are all over the place. This really is nuts. I'm not sure how much longer we're gonna go with this on the stream, guys. I might do some further investigation into getting this to work, try some different plugins, see if I can get a better pipeline between the two applications up and going before the next stream, because that seems like it is the biggest issue right now. Yeah, I think so too. I really do. They have to be off in some way. I may need to actually retarget these inside of Blender. I mean, I shouldn't need to because I got things sort of half working earlier, even before the stream, but that might be my best, clearest, maybe not best, but clearest path towards getting this to work. Okay, I'll try the X forward, Z up. Okay, I'll do that then. Yep, okay. So I'll clear this all out. So Yep, that's what I'm trying to do. Blender is being strange and buggy and exporting all the animations, even though I've deleted everything out of the file and have saved, I believe I've saved a version since, I think. Maybe not, but that shouldn't affect it either. Yeah, it's... I'm going to get their blend file again. I don't know if I've saved over anything. Also, if you guys do use Mojin, it'll definitely work in Firefox. You can run into some issues using other browsers. And so I grabbed that for this stream. Okay. So I'll do Z, X forward. I can click the right thing. Z up. The armature, we should... Oh, the primary bone axis might need to be adjusted. I'm gonna leave those as their defaults though. And just do the X forward Z up for now. If you haven't missed a lot, Node, we've been struggling, or I've been struggling with getting the animations in properly for quite a while now. has that weird orientation on the root, but I'm just going to leave it like that and see. Gone through this process so many times today. Let's try this again. Nope. Did not force the bone orientation. Oh. Whoops, I accidentally overwrote the FBX. That should be all right. But I'm going to put it here as well and reference this file. Ah. I didn't have it set to just export the selected, I guess. Try selected invisible. There's some plugins I could try that are meant to make the process easier. And I could try transferring it onto the rig I used to get in the skeleton in the mesh. Remap it to that in Blender. And then... Oh. I see. Maybe it will work with that named that way. We're kind of back, but the rotation is still off. Root bone is there, but the rotation is messed up. It's better than it was before. And I'm going to bet. Yep. And I'm wondering if it's not ideal, but for this live stream, for the time being, if I just rotate this 90 degrees on the x-axis. It's rotated 90 degrees on its x-axis here, and yeah, that's it. Transforms weren't applied. Thanks. I was thinking, I glanced at it before, thought it was rotated 90 degrees on the Z, and didn't see that as being related to the current issue. Yep, that makes sense. Oh, whoops, wrong buttons. Nope, can't think right now. There we go. So I'll apply rotation and export. And there we go. Yep, thanks for the help. I appreciate it. It's been a while since I've worked in Blender with animations like this. Nope, didn't think to clear out the references to those beforehand. Oh well. Oh, and I did forget to disconnect these bones. Okay, so with the thread safe, the property access node is used to get variables from the game thread in a thread safe manner, and is used in any function that is running on a worker thread as opposed to a game thread. So that blueprint thread safe update animation function that Lyra uses doesn't run on the game thread, but it can be ran concurrently for all characters using that animation blueprint. And so the property access system is used to access variables or objects existing on the game thread, because the worker threads you don't access it while it's actually getting set or data is being written, and property access is able to access it safely. The animation layer interface that is used for the states is added to the main animation blueprint, and then the item anim layers base animation blueprint. And then in the character blueprint, the function is called on the mesh called link anim class layers, I believe, link anim class layers. And you choose the mesh. You can override the layers from your selected animation blueprint for the mesh with the layers in another animation blueprint. So in Lyra's case, it uses an animation inheriting from the linked anim layers base blueprint, which has one of their animation sets selected, like unarmed, and that allows for the runtime swapping of animation sets by swapping out the animation blueprints that are being used to override the layers. And that's why they have two separate ones, just to make that process a bit more easier and more modular, is the ability to just swap things out and separate out some functionality into two different animation blueprints and merge them back together at runtime. But yeah, that one node called off of the mesh in the character blueprint, I believe they do it either off of begin player and the construction script, is the key to getting everything up and working. Hi, Randy, and thanks. I'm glad you've been enjoying the series. Because I re-imported the skeleton, that didn't get selected in that asset, and that's why things weren't working. Now, if I bring this in and select it, it should appear here. It is not, though. Oh, because I have to set the config and a preview mesh. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm running the test with just one of the animations. Keep trying to double click instead of just single click it. Definitely only wants to rotate one way around, even with the mirroring going. Yeah, even though it's mirroring it, it's still putting it off on the wrong side of the trajectory. Okay. Yeah, I'll look into that game rig tools. So that's the one. So next I'll do basic navigation too. And I'll apply rotation. Yep, all simple stuff. It's just been a while since I've done this. And Blender can be tricky sometimes with Unreal. So that's 143. It's weird. Nope, I started with I created these animations, or more accurately, I generated these animations using an AI tool called Mojin. It is this site right here. You can you can download their Blender file that they have through their documentation in their Blender quick start guide. There's a file download. Animate the skeleton, export that as an FBX, upload it here, and then download what it generates, and it'll generate a character moving along the trajectory that you animate. And so I've been dealing with getting these generated animations and that character into Unreal properly. Almost had it the first time. Things weren't working properly. I went back to try it again, and I think things were close enough to fine to begin with, unfortunately. So there we go. And of course, It's brought in both animations. Don't know why Blender's doing this with me today. Maybe it's the version I'm on. Or no, it didn't. Oh, all right then. We can try that. So I have the basic nav to armature selected. I'm going to export it. And under bake animation, I have force start / end keyframe turned on. I believe that's what's needed, but if you want to suggest something else, I'll try your approach. But I was under the impression that force start / end keyframes forced it to adhere to the start and end keyframes set here on the timeline. But that was just a complete guess on my part. So I'm totally open to guidance. I didn't have the keyframes scaled properly. So that could have been causing me issue. Well, there's the animation that I was looking for. I'll take what I can get with the way that the issues I've been dealing with both myself and the software. There there aren't 3 directors in the folder either. That's very strange. Well, oh wow. We're almost 3 hours in, guys. I am going to have to end this stream soon here. But I'll get more animations in, get some more coverage, some better coverage is with the animations, and be ready to really get things kicked off next week. A better process too. There isn't a good loop in this right now, which is part of the issue. But I'm seeing moments here where things are kind of lining up as it's jumping all over the place, so I have a good feeling that with better coverage, we could be getting some really good results. And we don't even have all the basic nav in here right now. So it's expected to get stuck in that deceleration. Since I haven't gotten a long run in here. I do have one of those, but that's not in here yet. And the basic nav dance card is just full of basic, pretty much acceleration right and back into deceleration. But from a tiny bit of coverage that we have in here working right now, it feels like it's working better than before. It's tighter onto the movement in the character. So I'm going to leave it here and get some stuff figured out between this week and next week, and get the rest of these animations and probably some better animations, more dance cards followed with what I've generated into the engine and ready to go to kick off the next stream. So thanks for sticking with me for so long, guys. Now this stream has been a pain for me, and I've been doing stuff the whole time. So we'll hopefully have some more exciting stuff to do next week. So I'll see you all there, and there will be another Advanced Character Locomotion Series video out this weekend. Between this stream and the next. Yep, sure thing, everyone. Should hopefully have a better process figured out, and be much closer to being able to put together a good actual tutorial series for this process. It'll be separate from the advanced character locomotion stuff. Like, it all can work together, but I want to cover motion matching in its own dedicated set of videos that's going to be separate from everything I'm doing there. So I'm happy to do it, and I'll see you all elsewhere in the streams further on, or in the Discord. I'd be happy to discuss this stuff more in Discord. Yep, I've never been good at ending these streams out or finding a good note to end on, so I guess I'll just go ahead and click the end stream button before I ramble on too long. I'll see you guys around.